Good evening, everyone. This is Natisha Rivera-Patrick coming to you live from Ocean City, Maryland, where I just paid $60 to have internet in the condo we're renting because we didn't have it, and I need to upload this video for you guys. But I'm here today to go over my PowerPoint and talk to you a little bit about practical communication through technological determination theory. So let's go ahead and get started. So in looking at communication, we know that communication is a tool which we exercise our influence on others. We bring out changes in our and others' attitudes, we motivate the people around us, and establish and maintain relationships with them. Communication makes up a major part of our active life and is the essential social activity. Hyper-connected and always on. Isn't that us as a society today? We look for opportunities for people to communicate digitally. We know that they've increased significantly, which means that our face-to-face interactions have decreased dramatically. Experts fear that we are so immersed in the digital world that we have lost touch with what is happening in real life. There was a Kaiser Foundation study that was done that showed that children ages 8 to 18 spend on average 7.5 hours per day on media. That's tremendous. So when looking at the technological determinism theory, say that 3 times fast, I'm going to call it TDT for short, it attempts to help explain how changes in methods of communication through advancements in technology impacts the general society. So according to this theory, media technology shapes how individuals in a society feel, act, and think, as well as influences how society functions as they move from one technological age to another. People learn how to think and feel the way they do based upon the messages they receive through the current technology. This theory supports the belief that the medium is the message, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, and that people adapt accordingly and will utilize the means in which society as a whole is using to communicate. Marshall McLuhan is the founder of this theory, and he believed that the crucial inventions that changed life on this planet were the phonetic alphabet, the printing press, and the telegraph. The phonetic alphabet catapulted the human race into an age of literacy. Gutenberg's press launched the Industrial Revolution. He believed that we shape out tools and that they in turn shape us. Technological determinism means inventions in technology invariably cause cultural change. Putting it another way, the modes of communication shape human existence. McLuhan was unique in claiming that channels of communication are the primary cause of cultural change. Family life, the workplace, schools, healthcare, friendship, religion, recreation, politics, all are touched in one way or another by communication technology. The medium is the message. McLuhan defines media as anything that amplifies or intensifies a bodily organ, sense, or function. Media extends our reach and increases our efficiency. Media also acts to filter or organize and interpret our social existence. The medium is the message. The way we live is largely a function of the way we process information. As the medium changes, so does society's way of communicating. If the medium is impersonal, then the message itself is also impersonal. So think a little bit about that and where we are today as a society. Even when we're together, we're not interacting with one another. We're not engaging. Think about when you're out at dinner, or even if you may do this yourself with your family. You come home from work, you sit down to eat, everybody's on their phone, on their tablet. So there's very little interaction amongst us as a society other than through the lens. And so we're really intentional in our home about making sure that we put the devices down, that we have that face-to-face, that interpersonal communication, which so many of our children and even many of our adults are lacking, just being able to have a normal conversation with one another. McLuhan viewed every new form of media innovation to be an extension of some human faculty. So, for example, a book is an extension of the eye, a wheel is an extension of the foot, clothing an extension of the skin, etc. He believed that the new electronic media has radically altered the way people think, feel, and act. He predicted that we would be in the midst of a revolution and that the world would never be the same. Isn't that where we are now? He has now become the celestial hero of the electronic age, for he prophesies what has come to pass. The internet and the World Wide Web have now created the new global village that he envisioned back in the 60s. Axiological assumptions of technological determinism theory. Say that 3 times fast. TDT is objective in that everyone will act and feel the same no matter what medium they are using, provided they are using the same medium. Values are not involved because evidence is seen strictly through observation. So he looked at explanatory power, which explains when the new systems of technology are developed, the culture of society is immediately changed to reflect the senses needed to use that new technology. Predictive power is when every new system of media technology, society will change and adapt to that technology. Parsimony, this is a simple cause and effect analysis between the introduction of the new technology and the changes in society's way of thinking, feeling, acting, or believing. Falsifiability is the theory that could be proved false if a new technology is invented and nothing changes. Internal consistency, there is a logical flow of proof evidenced over time. And heuristic provocativeness, would this theory only work in the USA, or would it vary culture to culture within or outside the United States? Does it vary in the electronic age between those who can afford the technology and those who cannot? And so that's an interesting thing to think about. Looking at us as a culture, I think the effects of technology are pretty consistent across the board, whether that's the United States or abroad. I do think that there is a disconnect, no pun intended, on people who are and do have the means to have technology within their homes, whether that be a cell phone, a tablet, or even just internet to access the web. And so we see that disconnect in our socioeconomic conditions for those who do not have that access, and it does play a role in their children's ability and their education. McLuhan was ahead of his time and provided a unique and candid observation of human beings and our interaction and reaction to the communication mediums we possess. All media works us over completely. They are so persuasive in their personal, political, economic, aesthetic, psychological, moral, ethical, and social consequences that we leave no part of us untouched, unaffected, or unaltered. McLuhan's work focused on the following assumptions as a basis for his theory. He looked at the ontological assumptions. Humans do not have much free will at all. Whatever society as a whole is using to communicate, they too will use to communicate. Therefore, they will adapt to the medium they are using so that they can send and receive messages like everyone else. Epistemological assumptions. We know that there is one truth by observing what has happened over time. As the medium changes, so does society's way of communicating. People can only use the medium for which it is created, so a phone for talking over lines or electronic mail for talking via computer. If the medium is impersonal, such as television, then the message too is impersonal. Enter Neil Postman. Neil Postman, who examined media as epistemology, examining how any civilization's media will determine the way in which it defines truth, believes that there is no universal way to know truth, but rather that a civilization will identify truth largely based on its forms of communication. A primitive oral culture will put great stock into a man who remembers proverbs, since truth is passed on through such stories, whereas a culture of written word will find oral proverbs quaint and the permanence of written precedent far more important. One of Postman's major concerns is that television, the main source of entertainment and messaging at the time, has limited our discourse to where all of our serious forms of discussion have turned into entertainment. Television has influenced the way we live off the screen. Postman refers to the inability to act upon much of the so-called information from televised sources as the information-action ratio. This term, coined by Postman, is meant to indicate the relationship between a piece of information and what action, if any, a consumer of that information might reasonably be expected to take once learning it. The medium is the metaphor. Drawing on the ideas of media scholar McLuhan's aphorism, the medium is the message, to the medium is the metaphor, Postman describes how oral, literate, and televisual cultures radically differ in the processing and prioritization of information. He argues that each medium is appropriate for a different kind of knowledge. These faculties, requisite for rational inquiry, are simply weakened by televised viewing. Accordingly, reading, a prime example cited by Postman, exacts intense intellectual involvement, at once interactive and dialectical, whereas television only requires passive involvement. So in conclusion, a media analysis of history, McLuhan supported his thesis for technological determinism by interpreting the sweep of human history from a media perspective. McLuhan's technological determinism theory demonstrates how modern media are extension of human senses. They ground us up physicality, but expand our ability to perceive our world to an extent that would be impossible without the media. He looked at the tribal age, an acoustic place in history, which provided an oral culture based on the ear. Then we moved into the age of literacy, a visual point. The alphabet fell into the acoustic world like a bombshell, installing sight at the head of the hierarchy of senses. Literacy jarred people out of the collective tribal involvement into a civilized, private detachment. It emphasized an orderly line of connected linear logic. Then we moved into the print age, where we had the prototype of the Industrial Revolution. It's the phonetic alphabet made visual dependency possible. The printing press made it widespread. The print revolutionized demonstrated mass production of identical products. McLuhan called it the forerunner for the Industrial Revolution. The electronic age and the rise of a global village. Electronic media are retribalizing the human race. Instant communication has returned us to a pre-alphabet oral tradition where sound and touch are more important than sight. We have gone back to the future. We are a global village in touch with everyone, everywhere, at once, all the time, instantaneously. Closed human systems no longer exist. Which brings us to my final thought. The challenges we face as individuals or subsequently as a society they're significant. They are testing our boundaries in ways we would have never imagined. Our abilities have increased exponentially as technology continues to dangle the best and the brightest before us. We are living our lives in a fast-paced world, capturing every moment. We call ourselves living, but have we really lived? What is our quality of life? My assertion is that we have become more passive, accepting what is given to us, often without question. We have become blind followers, vacant shells of humans being filled with images and messaging, but nothing that helps build our own self-worth. No quality to speak of, only quantity. The desire to be seen as favorable and liked is driving our kids to death. Faith has been replaced with tolerance and acceptance because we are told that is the right thing to do. We were not created to be the same. Our needs are different, as is our ability to meet those needs. The challenge to us is to use technology as a means to grow and improve life for all. Real life is lived outside of the insatiable lens that we work so tirelessly to feed. I wish you all well. I hope that you learned something today. I look forward to watching everyone's video. Have a great 4th, everyone. Thank you.